Hi, you've clicked on to today's tropical tidbit for Sunday over here in the Atlantic. Our area of interest continues to be Invest 94L over here in the Caribbean. If we zoom in on this, visible imagery shows that the broad low pressure center is right about here, southwest of Jamaica, with an elongation both to the south and to the west over here. So it's a little bit more ill-defined than yesterday, though it may gain some of that definition back based on this convection creeping closer, still to the east of it, but getting closer to the center of circulation as wind shear is a little bit lower. And although it's had dry air to deal with in the northwest quad over here, you can see some of these random showers going off, which are slowly but surely moistening the environment a little bit more, which may allow convection to get slightly closer to the center and try to make it a little bit more defined today. Um, the water vapor imagery here shows the upper low over the southwest Gulf of Mexico, now bringing clouds up out of the south over here. A little bit of shear still going on in the Northwest Caribbean, but in general not too bad of an environment for this to drift west-northwest to over the short term, over the next day or so. As upper low, as long as it stays back here, will continue to ventilate this region and make it favorable for lowering of pressures in here. Again, the environment is really not so bad. It's semi-favorable, fairly good for an early June pattern for this system. It's just that the models really don't want to develop it. And we've been trying to figure out the reason why, because again, meteorologically, the conditions are not all that bad. The issue is probably surface convergence in this pattern. I showed you yesterday the light winds all over in here on yesterday's ASCAT pass, nothing but 5 and 10 knot wind barbs, a couple of 15 knot wind barbs, but not many. Very light areas of wind that weren't converging very well. I'm going to show you today's ASCAT pass, which shows our first batch of 20 knot plus winds coming into this area of convection that developed near Jamaica, right east of the low center in here. This is starting to bring in some more inflow and some more convergence, which will help keep this convection going in here, perhaps helping the low become a little bit better defined. I'm not saying this will help it develop, but it is a little bit better than yesterday's setup, and it will be interesting to see how much this tries to get going. No matter what the models say, they're not always right, so we have to watch this as it will still be sitting here for several days. And again, broad areas of low pressure sitting over the Caribbean have to be watched because they can do stuff, especially under a pattern that is semi-favorable, despite what the models say. None of the models developed a system except the Canadian, which is being a typical Canadian model, bringing a hurricane into Florida, into the Florida Panhandle in 6 days. This is an unlikely scenario, at least intensity-wise, but the Canadian may have the general correct idea on the track over here. If we look at the storm tracks on the models, it's becoming more likely now that the drift, you can see the initial motions to the west-northwest now. Yesterday we had motions anywhere from east-northeast to north over here. And I was waiting to see how much of a pull this trough out in the western Atlantic was going to have on this system. You can see some of the models still pull it out to the northeast here. I think that it has waited long enough. Remember, we've been talking about ever since last week that if it waited until this week, it was possible that the trough would pull out and the ridge over the southeast United States would be able to catch this and bring it west-northwest, perhaps eventually north into the eastern Gulf of Mexico or Florida as the pattern flattens out and weaknesses develop in the ridge and it breaks down, allowing it to slowly drift northward. I think that is now more likely to happen. And so there are chances now for some rainfall to bring relief to Florida and the southeast Gulf of Mexico. And this is something that folks can get excited about because the system is unlikely to be very strong if it develops at all. So we can hope for some rain here. The environment will be kind of dry in the Gulf of Mexico, but there will be baroclinically induced instability with the upper trough in here that may allow some rainfall to break out in here. So folks can look forward to that if this survives making it up in here without fully dissipating and doing nothing. If it has any punch to it at all, we can hope for some rain in here. So it should slowly drift west-northwest and then slowly curve towards western Cuba or this general area within the next few days. Slowly, will probably be 5 days before it actually really leaves the Caribbean and gets into here. So at least we can look forward to some wetting with this system. Overall, not too excited about the system because of the low chance here. The models still don't develop it, but again, despite that, you have to watch it because it's sitting over here over warm water. The environment is slowly starting to moisten up a little bit more. We'll see if this convection tries to wrap around today. It's not impossible that this could try to get going. So overall, a low chance, but needs to be watched, but nothing to be too awfully concerned about. In fact, folks all over this area will be looking forward to some rainfall from this. So really, more good news if not, if it continues to struggle to develop and bring convection to these areas that need it really badly. So we will continue to monitor this closely this week. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.